Great to see so many friends with us here today. If you're Zooming, please remember to mute yourself and submit any questions or comments via chat, or unmute yourself so we can hear from you. Thanks to our greeter, past President Barry Covington. Is Barry on there? Am I thanking no one? Perhaps, yeah. So thanks for being here. Prayer and pledge today given by Casey Martin. Casey.
Thank you, Tom. We'll start with a blessing. Dear Father of us all, please accept our thanks for this day and all of its blessings. We ask that you guide and direct our club, elected officials, first responders, and everyone involved in ending the COVID pandemic. Grant that each of us may feel our responsibility to Rotary, our community, and to our country. And finally, bless this food to our nourishment. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Casey. Christy King, do you have a family time for us today?
Yes, I do. Thank you, President Tom. So we don't have any birthdays this week, but we do have one member anniversary. Past President Odette Strauss is celebrating 17 total years with Rotary. And then we have some wedding anniversaries. March was a popular month to get married. Lisa Marie Winslow has celebrated 24 years of marriage with her husband Scott on March 22nd. Rick Morales and his wife Amy will celebrate 31 years of marriage on March 24th. John Cumbo and his wife Amy will celebrate 15 years of marriage on March 25th. And Meredith Porter and her husband Paul are celebrating 12 years of marriage on March 28th.
Great. Thanks, Christy.
Thanks, President Tom.
Thanks for reminding me of my anniversary last week as well, Christy. That came in just right. Oh my gosh. So, right. Okay, we have a few announcements for you today. We'd like to start. Past President B has a report from our Foundation Committee B.
So this was supposed to be a surprise. I told my daughter that I needed her to be here today for Women's History Month. And I'm up front, so it can be a surprise. And I'm sitting at the table with this piece of paper, and she says, I see my name on that paper.
Good job.
And I said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. She says, I don't have to come up and talk, do I? I said, no. Anyways. This fellowship is named for Paul Harris, who founded Rotary in 1905. The fellowship was established in his honor in 1987 to express appreciation for a contribution of $1,000 to the humanitarian and educational programs of the Rotary Foundation. Foundation programs include an array of projects that save and invigorate the lives of people around the world and enhance international friendships and understanding. They provide educational opportunities, food, clean drinking water, healthcare, immunizations, and shelter for millions of people. These activities are funded, implemented, and managed by Rotarians and Rotary clubs around the world. The Paul Harris Fellows are designated to recognize individuals whose lives demonstrate a shared purpose with the objectives and mission of the Rotary Foundation. Our newest Paul Harris Fellow lives a life of service above self, personally and professionally. There are a lot of things that behind the scenes she does that no one has any idea she's done. During the most challenging time of my life, she never left my side. I'm very proud of the person she is and I thank God for her. It is such an honor to be able to present this Paul Harris Fellow to my daughter, Ori Whitmer.
Such a relief to know that I didn't somehow spoil this.
I didn't, I spoiled.
No blood yet.
No blood.
There we go.
All right.
She's trying to run. She's trying to run.
Yes. Should I take off now?
You should.
Yes.
We're sending it to RI.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job. Good job. Okay. So this is our weekly reminder to RSVP for anything you want to attend, to RSVP by Friday before. Yeah, have I ever given you a date?
No, you haven't.
We need a date,
Okay.
yeah. Letting Patty know, like, Monday night at midnight isn't gonna help the food situation. So let's keep up the good work, but I'll continue to get that in front of you. So Lynn Bowman, Lisa Marie, come on up. Tell us about what's happening.
Okay, so we are trying to reignite the social committee and start some events going forward. And we have our first confirmed event. It's, mark your calendars, Monday, April 12th at Rue St. Mark. We're going to do a Bubbles and Pearls event. So Patty's opened up an RSVP online for us already. So if you're interested, please RSVP so we can start getting numbers and start ordering food and getting everything organized. So we'll do that immediately. That'd be great. And then we're also still working on something with Treaty Oak, so more information on that coming up soon. And if anybody has any other great ideas for outdoor socials or things that we can do, let me know.
Last night was Monday night. Just saying, in case anybody wants to, test it out to make sure they want to go, you can go any Monday. That's what I hear. So, yeah. All right. President-elect Richard, come on up. Richard.
Thank you, President Tom. The reason that I'm up here primarily is to thank you for the generous food donations that I see in the back. They are, as you know, for San Jose Elementary School and their spring festival Thursday between 5 and 6. I've already had several people contact me to volunteer at the festival, and we're starting at 4:30 if you'd like to drop by, either as a volunteer or with food. This is one event that we'll be doing this spring. If you remember the massive effort that B mounted last fall, or was it last spring? Good grief. No, it wasn't. For food collection and the families that we encountered and the gratitude that they expressed. This is another way of meeting some very immediate needs in a very profound way. So again, I thank you. And we'll be doing more food projects as the year progresses. Stay tuned. Thank you.
So that's this Thursday?
This Thursday,
Okay.
5 to 6, San Jose Elementary School. Thank you for slowing me down. And that is at Augustine Road, just north of University. Yeah. Anything else? Thank you.
There's a great food need in our community and worldwide, and we'll continue to do as much as we can to help facilitate food for those in need. And so, as Richard said, you'll be hearing more and more about it, and I'm looking forward to everyone participating actively in whatever Richard suggests for you. So I also wanted to share with you, hey, so Julia, why don't you share our Rotaract update?
I'd be happy to. Thanks, President Tom. So as you know, we had that 5K Black Tie Blue Jean that usually was a gala, but the Rotaract team converted it to a 5K run, and so many of you participated, and our club sponsored the event as well. And the total raise was $5,895, and that is going to allow us to help furnish 3 rooms at the Salzbacher Village. So incredible effort and a wonderful mission. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for all the support and really making our community safer. Thank you.
Great. Give yourself a hand. Thank you, Julia, for spearheading that. While we're thanking everyone, I think that we need to thank our IT department. Yeah, the guy's laughing on the front row, right?
Oh, Jenkins set up this one today.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Hey.
I plugged it in. Cross-training.
Just saying.
Moving up.
Cross-training, I know. Crystal's on, right.
I have a suggestion. You know how you send out the departments and who's going to introduce, and who's going to say the pledge, and who's going to pray, and all that?
Yeah.
Why don't you add an IT place there so that those of us who have been trained know what day you need us?
I think that's great. That's a great idea. That's a great idea for the IT department to do.
How about a Zoom greeter?
Yeah.
And Zoom greeter.
And Zoom greeter.
And Zoom.
And I see our IT chair is writing that down.
Yeah. So this is taking way too long. I just wanted to thank you guys, but thanks for your valuable input. But yeah, so we're able to do what we're able to do thanks to you guys. So, Parker, want to introduce our visitor and guests, please.
Thank you, President Tom. Looks like we have one guest today, Mr. Bob Massey. You have a guest?
Yes, it's my great pleasure to introduce a longtime friend of mine, Michelle Kennedy. Please stand so everybody can see you. You don't have to pirouette or anything. But I got to know Michelle because she was working with Jacksonville Community Council, JCCI, that was housed in our building on Atlantic Boulevard for many years. And she is currently employed as the general manager at Theater Jax. And I know that is a passion of hers is theater, because I've seen some of her work as a director. And so anyway, please welcome Michelle.
Thank you, Bob. That takes care of it.
Almost.
You wanted to do a jazz riff?
I got to do a dance?
Yeah, you gotta.
I already did that part.
No, I got called out without studying.
We here in Rotary welcome you today. So glad you came along, glad you came our way. Our hand of fellowship is yours, sunshine or in rain. We here in Rotary say welcome, come again.
All right.
My kids know that song. Yeah. So, past President Jason, would you like to introduce our speaker today? Come on up. And for those of you who think you are hallucinating, this is actually
My name's Jason Burnett, and I'm wrong meeting. I am so happy to be here. This is my first time back to Rotary in a year, and couldn't be happier. And I have been attending via Zoom, and now that I realize how bad I look on camera, I'm never doing that again. And I'm not even wearing pants on that. So it was a mixed bag getting ready for this. This is literally the first time I've worn a suit. I cut myself shaving, but my clothes still fit. So I'm taking it. It feels like a victory. And it also feels like a victory to have our speaker today, Melissa Ross. I have one quick story. I've been a fan of hers. For those of you that live under a rock, she's the host of First Coast Connect and Florida Roundup. And if you ever hear her on 89.9, she has a wonderful voice and has amazing insight that she gets her guests to confess, which is a great thing, I think. And so I was so excited a couple of years ago. A friend of mine is throwing he's in charge of the fundraiser at the Florida Theater, and he knew that Melissa was coming, and he's like, Jason, I'm going to get you seated next to her so that you can get out, because I'm such a fanboy. So I was dressed. Let's just start with that. And a friend of mine who has a hair salon, they had painted me brown. So, I mean, I'm like really rocking the whole Hugh Hefner look. And unfortunately, I may have been slightly overserved prior to getting to the party. And I did remember the advice of my father that, you know, if there's an opportunity where somebody might think you're a fool, do not open your mouth and confirm it. So I was a mute. I sat next to her. If y'all can imagine, I sat next to her for at least 2.5 hours, and I don't think I ever spoke a word. So, so this is me trying to make up for that, and it is just my pleasure. Melissa Ross, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. It's so good to be here today. You know, it's been a year since I've been anywhere too. You're the first in-person group I've seen in a year. And by the way, you haven't lived until you've seen Jason in Hugh Hefner costume. You should have seen his wife too. She was even more fabulous than he was. That was quite a fun evening at the Florida Theater. But you know, Jason, thank you so much for inviting me to speak to you today, and all of you. It was funny when I walked in with Judge Khalil, didn't recognize her. She had on a mask. There's a couple others of you here I didn't recognize because you have on your masks. I didn't recognize Jason at first because he had on a mask. Have you all had this experience? It's happening to me almost every day. This pandemic has made it so that we literally don't see people we've known for years right in front of us. And it's one of the disorienting things that we've all had to kind of deal with, you know, for the last year. Hi, by the way, my former coworker right there. So as I was driving over here today, I was thinking about how we could maybe just talk about that for a few minutes, because at WJCT, of course, we are so engaged every day in bringing information to our listeners and readers and viewers about this pandemic. And there's so much every day to talk about. Right now, of course, vaccinations is the big thing. By the way, did you see that if you've been vaccinated and you bring your vaccination card to Krispy Kreme, they'll give you a free donut?
Really?
Not just one, but you could go every single day this year, all through this year, and get a free donut if you wanted. Did you know that?
Wow.
Yeah, that is something that they, a private company, are doing to try to encourage people to get vaccinated. Who all here has been vaccinated? Can you raise your hands? So almost everyone. Who plans to be vaccinated? Okay. I've had one of the Moderna shots, and I'm going to go and get the second one. But you know, that honestly, more than anything, is what we are hearing from the public about right now. Either people have been vaccinated and they're very happy. They plan to be vaccinated soon and they can't wait. They're upset because they're not eligible to be vaccinated yet, and they're trying to find a way to get a vaccine ahead of the line, or they're vaccine hesitant. They're worried that the vaccines aren't safe or that there might be unintended side effects. And a surprisingly high percentage of healthcare workers are vaccine hesitant, and these are people that need it more than anyone. But a big public health challenge right now that we have been hearing about from epidemiologists and such is that healthcare workers many of them are hesitant to get the vaccine. And so what do you do about that? Well, our role in all of this is just to present information. And every day what we do is we try to find the best subject matter experts that we can to get information out to the public about this. Because we're not going to be done with this until we have herd immunity and until a majority of people are vaccinated. And now we know that Mayor Curry has extended the mask mandate here in Jacksonville, Duval County. That's great. That said, not everybody follows it, and there aren't real enforcement mechanisms behind it. So as I think back on the last year, I think, my gosh, you know, all anybody in the world wants right now is to be past this time and to be done with all of this. But what I've kind of reflected on is that this time, as awful as it's been, is going to be with us even when we're done with the masks and we're done with worrying about getting the disease. I really do think that we haven't even begun to grasp yet how this pandemic has changed our society. And one thing in particular that I've seen both in my own household with my children and with my friends and their children and even their grown children is that we're going to have to deal with, after we deal with the public health crisis of people getting sick physically and sometimes dying, we're going to have to deal with the mental health crisis that we are facing in this country. And with our two children who are in high school, we have just been through an enormous, and we continue to go through enormous challenges getting our kids the help that they need, because it's an entire generation of kids who are really have been deeply marked by this. And as adults, we tend to look at all of this stuff as a pain in the butt, right? We tend to think, oh, this mask, God, where's my mask so I can go get my groceries? And it's just an inconvenience. It's a hassle for us. Their brains are still developing, their psyches, their identities. And so as adults, it's hard for us to kind of realize how deeply this has affected them. And I continue to work through that as a mom. But all of that said, one little piece of good news at my company that I'm proud to share is that despite all of our challenges, at WJCT, we have never had higher ratings than we do right now. Can you believe that? We have had record ratings through this pandemic. And what that has said to me is that people are really hungry for information. And they want information from a source that they feel is going to just give them straight news and information that they can really use. So we take that pretty seriously. We have a CEO in David McGowan who's done a wonderful job expanding our operations on radio, television, and digital. We plan a lot more digital expansion in the next few years, particularly since the Times Union and the business model, their parent company, has been very challenging, and they continue to shrink. So as we look at all this at WJCT, where, by the way, most of my colleagues are still working remotely, we are looking ahead to the end of this time and also just constantly assessing how we can serve this community better. And that will include all of our platforms. But we are getting towards the end of this time. So as I look at the calendar, I realize, you know, what's today, March 23rd? We locked down last year right around March 17th, 18th, somewhere like that. And I remember a year ago, I went to try to work out at the Y one more time before it closed. And I went over there to the Winston Y and I missed it. It had closed. Well, I haven't been back to the Winston Y since. I'm hoping to go soon. I guess that's like the coda to my little talk here is that's something I'm looking forward to. It's a little thing like that. And coming here today is another little step back into the post-pandemic world. And I hope there are many more. And I hope for all of you too, in your lives, your companies, your activities, that you feel like we're getting to that edge of that time where we can sort of edge back into what we knew before, but with the knowledge that we really are forever changed. And so while I can't predict the future, what I can tell you is that at our organization, we're really committed to working through this and continuing to serve the community. And Jason said I should leave time for questions. So do you have any?
You want to ask the folks on Zoom first?
Oh, yeah. Hi, guys. How you
Since
doing?
we tend to get carried away in the room and we don't give them much of a chance.
I see.
Anybody on Zoom with a question, if you would, unmute. And we'll give you about 5 seconds. You've stunned them like you did Jason.
Yeah, right.
And they're at home, so they can be drinking.
Hey, day drinking, you got whatever gets you through through this time. Hey, yeah.
So one of the things that I just was certain was going to happen even during the pandemic, and certainly at the end of the pandemic, was that we would have much more focus on immune health.
Yeah.
Beyond the hand washing and staying home when you're sick and keeping your distance, don't go out in public when you're, whatever. But I haven't seen that. I haven't heard that. I'm very surprised because there's another layer out there, several more layers out there to immune health and what we can do to all develop better immune systems. And to me, that is a travesty that we're not addressing that as a society.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I have become laser focused on that. Because I go into the office every day. There aren't a lot of people there, but I do go there every day. I've been taking every immune boosting type of thing that I feel will work or add value, be healthy, diet, proper sleep, exercise, having a healthy immune system. I think we've all realized how important that is. And promoting wellness, overall health and wellness, rather than reacting to disease. We do need to make that shift in this country. Hugh Green, the former CEO of Baptist Health, he's talked about this all over town, how the healthcare industry needs to shift to that, to talking more about wellness and prevention. You're right. Hey, Michelle.
Hi. You touched on it, the changing face of media in not just our community, but really it's global at this point. How is it that the partners that still are doing what we do, like yourselves, the Times Union, JBJ, what kind of collaborations or partnerships do you see are going to be necessary for media to stay a vital part? Because everything we do all day gets communicated. We're all trying to be master communicators, but we count on our partnership with media, and that is harder and harder to carve out and find. What kind of partnerships or what kind of support is needed?
Can you repeat the question for the folks? They're having a little trouble hearing on Zoom.
She asked what kind of support and partnerships do local media need to thrive in the future? Well, as you know, WJCT has unofficial partnerships with other media outlets all over town. Channel 4, the Daily Record, the Times Union, and others. And it's mainly content sharing agreements where we might run a piece on our website that first ran on Channel 4's website, or the Daily Records, or the business journals. We sometimes put their journalists on our air and vice versa. So that's really where things are now. And where they'll go in the future, no. But what I can tell you is that when newspapers in particular go down, local democracy erodes. So this week, all 4 living former mayors of Jacksonville published an open letter to Gannett, the parent company of the Times Union, which is basically owned by a hedge fund. And they basically begged Gannett to invest more in the Times Union. Because if you don't have a vibrant local newspaper, you don't have a healthy community. And what we at WJCT have been doing in response to that, and public media outlets all over America have been doing in response to the failing business model of newspapers is finding a way to beef up our digital presence and launch a new investigative journalism website to try to fill this void. There are a number of these that are doing really well all over the country, like the Texas Tribune in Texas is one that you could look at online, for example, and many others. And these are nonprofit, foundation-supported journalism enterprises. And so I would just say, stay tuned. We're working on that. Yes, sir.
Can you give us an update on Michael Boylan, and is he still in touch with the station? I know he's
Right, well, he's on the city council now, yeah. So not really, no. I mean, he's doing what he's doing now.
So who was that?
Our former CEO, Michael Boylan, is now a city council member.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah, and our current CEO is a guy named David McGowan. And he'll be speaking, by the way, to the downtown Rotary, I think, next month. Hi.
Well, so what's the most interesting interview you've done in the age of pandemic?
Most interesting.
The most interesting interview in this time of pandemic? Gosh, that is a tough one. There've been so many. I get, there's one that stands out. A lady that I know named Paula Horvath, who was a UNF professor, and she's basically retired now. But she was one of the first people that I talked to when the pandemic started who got sick from coronavirus and then recovered. And back then, we really didn't know that much about the disease or what was going on with it, or what the real symptoms were, what the real experience was like. And she was one of the first people that we put on the air that said, I never had a fever, I never had a cough, I had all these other weird symptoms, and this is what happened to me. And that was the first time I thought, okay, we don't know what the hell we're doing here. We're gonna, this is bigger and more complicated than we thought. So I guess that one stands out. Yeah. Hey, Jason.
How did it change your day-to-day job of doing interviews and people coming into the studio? Because I always picture studios relatively small for a radio station.
Yeah.
And so what changed in how you did your job day to day?
A lot of what changed day to day, he asked, at work. A lot, because before the pandemic, almost all of our guests were live in person. And so we have this little green room that they would come and sit and hang out in. And a lot of mornings, as you know, it looked like the bar scene from Star Wars, because you'd have someone like a judge sitting next to a guy from the monster truck rally. And like, it was just so weird. But it was funny. But anyway, that all went away, and everyone started to be over the phone. And that's how it's been for the last year, or Zoom. You can record people off Zoom. But what we found is now what we do is a combination of live guests and pre-recorded guests. And that has actually been good, because that gives us more flexibility in moving things around and producing things with a little more finesse. It's actually been a good thing.
As Jason referred to, you do a wonderful job interviewing your guests. Tell us your secrets. What have you learned over the years? Maybe it'll help us when we talk to people.
He asked, how do you interview people and how do you make that good? I know it sounds trite to say, but the hardest thing in the world is active listening. It's an acquired skill, and I still work at it all the time. You have to actively listen to the other person, because often what people do is they have an idea of questions that they want to ask, and then they just go through them. And you cannot do that. You have to really listen, because then whatever the responses you get from questions.
Somebody gives a provocative answer and the interviewer just goes right over it.
Yeah.
And follow up on it. So
right.
You chase that rabbit.
Right. You have to be that way. And I would think too, like that applies in any job that you have, like if you're in HR or if you're in whatever, active listening helps you better understand the other person you're dealing with. They might say something really unexpected. That's the key.
Is there a topic that you covered that has responded or resulted in the most controversial calls and follow-ups as a result of it? Is there any one particular topic that seems to draw a lot of attention?
Controversial topics. I would say before the pandemic, the biggest one was the JEA, the push to privatize JEA and the federal investigation that came out of that. I would say by far there was just so much community engagement and questions about that. And there still is. And whether or not that grand jury does anything, I don't know, but that was a big one. So, yes.
How is funding going? What are your funding sources, and is that headed up, down, sideways?
From what I understand, we're in really good shape. He asked about funding for WJCT. We continue to do pretty well, all things considered. We haven't had to lay anyone off, which is really, knock on wood, we will never have to. We continue to, as I said, our strong ratings have really helped our underwriting department. And we're actually beginning a pledge drive tomorrow. So donate, please. But yeah, we're in good shape. I mean, they are looking ahead. They're always projecting ahead to the next, the next quarter, the next year. But honestly, we have a lot to be grateful for. Things could be a lot worse. I've seen a lot of businesses go under. I've seen a lot of people lose their jobs. And I have a very good friend who, is living in an Airbnb and working as a substitute teacher and looking for a job. And he's one of my oldest friends in Jacksonville. And so there's a lot of pain out there. We could be in much more straits. We're in good shape. So one more, and then I'll let you guys go.
I'm interested in your thoughts. Having been through it a year, interviewed a lot of people about it. What overall do you think Governor DeSantis got right, got wrong, in the way he handled the pandemic and response?
I get asked that a lot too. Of course, the governor, he asked about the governor's response to the pandemic. I think that it's a mixed bag. Of course, the governor prioritized seniors first for the vaccines. And with our large senior population, you can see why. Now, that has been a boon to so many seniors. The majority of seniors in Florida have been vaccinated. That's great. That said, the state has gone against the CDC recommendations of getting frontline workers vaccinated first. People that come into regular contact with the public. And those folks have had to wait and wait and wait. And I frankly think that was probably a mistake. I think that they could have been given, along with teachers who are now eligible, could have been given more consideration. Now, all of that said, of course, everyone 50 and older as of this week can get the vaccine, which is great. Other cities like Orlando and Miami have already jumped ahead of the state. They're already vaccinating people 40 and older. So if there's anyone here who wants to drive down to Orlando and get the vaccine, who's between 40 and 50 years old, you should go. So, states tried a number of approaches, and I just think it's going to take some time to fully assess how we've all done. And I mean, these officials have had to respond on the fly to these incredibly challenging conditions. So in that sense, I think you have to allow some latitude for that. But at the same time, like I said, my personal opinion is workers and those folks that the CDC recommended go first, I feel like they should have gotten to go first too. That's just me. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. And letting me talk to you. Thank you.
Don't.
Nope.
Okay. As a thank you,
No.
we will be making a contribution in your honor to the Rotary Foundation for Polio Plus.
Oh, thank you so much. That is
Thank you very much.
fantastic. Thank you so much.
Before you close, I need to ask something of the group.
Okay. I'll give you that shot.
Okay.
Now.
Oh, okay.
Or I'll forget.
This ties together with what Melissa was talking about. A week ago, when you're talking about people wearing masks and all those sorts of things, I had a meeting with someone who does all sorts of stuff with Rotary. He's a little older than me. And he came on and then he signed off and he said, I feel like I've been hit by a truck. And I thought, oh no. And to give you an idea, he comes from an area, I traveled all around our district last year in Northeast Florida. Comes from an area where when I'd show up, I'd put on a mask and walk in, and then I'd see people see me and, you know, it's the district governor, so they'd look around to find a mask or hang back, but just not really believing much about it. So I got a call yesterday saying, I'm in the hospital, I can't make any of my meetings. I don't want people calling me because I have no energy. He said, and I said, so are you going to be out? And how do we take care of your wife? Does she need transportation? He said, no, she's gone for the duration. They told her to go home. She can't come into the hospital. And I said, so what's it look like? A couple of days, he said, I've got embolisms all over. He said, I don't know. This is one of our most active, most effective Rotarians, and not just in Rotary. He does all sorts of things. And what hurts the most is to see that so many people will learn. This is real, but they have to learn it the hard way through someone like this. So when you're talking to people, if that helps you at all, I'm not saying names, I'm not saying where. I mean, that's their choice about what they're doing, but if it does help you, this is really real. It is still real. There are new variants that are coming in that are now hitting younger folks and that are much more contagious than what we had. So we're not out of it. So please, if you would, take it seriously because it's not over till it's over. So thanks.
Okay.
I left you with an upbeat note there.
I was kind of backing away.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's thanks for the reminder. It's definitely serious business. Another general reminder to RSVP for every meeting well in advance of when you plan to attend any event, any Rotary event that you are attending. Please let Patty know before the night before. And I would also like to congratulate our newest Paul Harris Fellow, right?
All right.
Next week, our speaker will be Dr. Albert Lowe. And as we end our meeting, please join me in the Rotary motto. Service above self, one profits most, serves best. See you next week.